Hello, guys. This is General Johnny Dipshit here. Back at it again with another video. And I wanted to make this video because there was recently more allegations that came up regarding the slideshow commentary community and doodle tones as a whole that I'm not going to deny. I'm not going to lie. I've been paying attention to some of these allegations, mainly due to some fans who have been messaging me on Discord, updating me, being like, "Hey, do you remember this guy that you beefed with like almost like 8 years ago?" At this point, it turns out this guy is a scummy person, right? And there have been actually a surprising amount of videos recently that have been made covering these topics, mainly from Akumu. And I'll link his video in the description below. The video that kind of like inspired me to make this video. Seriously, you guys should honestly go check him out. I think he does a really, really good job documenting a lot of this shit. Whatever your thoughts on him may be, um, I don't really know him as like a person or a YouTuber, so this is not me like making any other comments regarding that, but he does a good job like documenting a lot of like the horrendous shit that a lot of these like commentators from like the slideshow commentary community and the art commentary community were involved in, right? I'll leave a link in the description below for his video. You guys can go check that out. And I thought to myself that I could at least make this video. Sorry, my throat is killing me. Make this video. Ugh, so my throat. Make this video at least detailing like some of the experiences that I had with the slideshow commentary community and how a lot of those how it really is like a cautionary tale in some sorts, that there's no such thing as like a friendship on the internet, right? There just isn't, right? And a lot of people, there were some people in my live stream chats when I did them that would argue against that point, where they would make the argument that no, actually, Megadupe, you can have an internet friend or whatever. And I'm just gonna, be brutally honest with you and just say no. That's just not how it is. It's never been it's never been that way. And a lot of people, I think the slideshow commentary community, in my experiences with it, can help out when it comes to understanding that you shouldn't be making quote unquote friends on the internet. Um, so to give you guys like a rundown of like my experience with it, I was a person who was, relatively early on the internet, not making content, but like looking at some of the stuff on the internet. I remember going and seeing videos on YouTube. I believe when I was around like 8 or 9 years old. Yes, I know I should not have been on the internet at that age. Whatever, it is what it is. It happens, right? I was a kid. I didn't know better. Um, but I remember first seeing the rant and commentary community. I would have to take a guess and say probably either 2008 or 2009. So this is like a really, really long ass time ago. And I remember seeing YouTubers like Big Al 2K6, Darkness the Curse. I remember there was Ace Salieri when he used to do commentaries. Helsing 920. I don't remember if Helsing ever did commentaries, but I remember he was like very popular when it came to like the ranting community as a whole. Um, yeah, just I remember a lot of these like old YouTubers, and then later on there was ranters and commentators such as M Scolo One, Youngblood Fantasy 91, Vesper the Snake. I remember him. There was Junior Fan. I remember seeing some of his commentaries. Daniel Lowe, Sonic Orbit 01. But yeah, just generally speaking, I remember being like sort of not involved, but like, you know, someone who paid attention to these communities back in the day because I just liked the type of content that they were making. And I liked how it was essentially a community that was built around making rants and responses to like reviews on kids media, whether it be like movies or video games, or sometimes in some cases adult media, or not adult but more like general audiences media. And I believe it wasn't until the year of 2013 or 2014 where I actually started to get involved with the commentary community. Mainly by making rants and my own commentaries. Now, I don't remember any of the commentaries that I made. This is like, we're talking stuff that happened like ages ago. when I was still a young teenager. And you know, it kind of just leads to the point that in retrospect, it's, you know, something I really regret doing, mainly because the simple fact of the matter is that a lot of these like commentators are just not stable people at all. Like the slideshow commentary community was filled with people that, genuinely speaking, they were beyond manipulative, beyond, you know, power hungry. Quite literally, in some cases, they were power hungry. Where they just wanted to exert control over a lot of the people that they were making videos on, you know? And this was even more evident when you see just how many people in that community, quote unquote, became commentary bandwagons. These were people who, you know, would admittedly make like a couple of shitty rants or reviews or whatever, and then end up becoming like a bandwagon as a result, right? Where there's like a bunch of commentators going out of their way to shit on the guy, you know? In some cases, there was kind of a point for it, but in a lot of cases, not so much. Yeah, and it was very bizarre, you know? It's basically like a community where, and it really does go back into the lesson of when there's like a community on the internet, it's not built to last, okay? It's drama will happen, stuff will happen that will fracture that community from the inside almost quickly, because people on the internet, people who spend a significant amount of time on the internet, and I say this because I say this with experience, the simple fact of the matter is that they're losers and they have nothing better to do. That's just a fact, okay? There's no reason why you should be spending a good chunk of your time on the internet. There just isn't. If you have better things to do, you would have better things to do, right? And yeah, like a lot of these commentators, they just legitimately had this weird parasocial, relationship issues where drama just immediately starts springing up like almost out of the blue, and they are just unable to deal with that in an effective manner. And many of these people just were extremely antisocial and human to an extent that, a lot of these current revelations that are popping up with some of these commentators really isn't that surprising. And, again, watch the Akumu videos. He does a really good job documenting some of the really heinous shit. Lio Convoy, with all of his flaws, has done a pretty good job documenting a lot of this shit too. Though, admittedly, Lio is kind of, from what I've seen, he's not really the most honest actor. But yeah, like a lot of these commentators and a lot of these, a lot of the commentary community, they just behaved in ways that was just this fucking asinine and barbaric. And, as someone who was still like a teenager dealing with this stuff, so I was like a minor at the time, it was genuinely in some ways it was stressful, because it was like, you know, this community is just filled with a bunch of snakes, and it really is like the snake pit. And, it makes a lot of these revelations that are coming out in retrospect really not that surprising. And and it really is like a good reason. It really is like a good it's one of the reasons why, if you know who I am, you know me. It's mainly because of like the troll era that I had, where I made like a lot of edgy troll videos, that I shouldn't have done. Admittedly, I'm not going to deny that. Especially with like a lot of like slurs that I were using like against like autistic people or whatever. So it's not something that I look fondly back at. But when you deal with that kind of community for a long period of time, where you're just dealing with a bunch of snakes, it basically gives you a more cynical outlook on how you view the internet, which basically made me create the content that I became the most known for, which is I'm just gonna go on the internet and just try to piss off a lot of people. I know it sounds ridiculous when you say it out loud, but this is genuinely how I felt at the time, where I just go on the internet to piss off as much people as possible just to get a cheap laugh, And yeah, it's a good lesson in the sense that like a lot of these, communities, they teach you that there's no such thing as like an internet friendship. And I know a lot of people don't like that, but I really, the only response I have to that is that I really do think that you just need to go outside and touch grass and communicate with people that are not on the internet, right? There are many people on Discord, that message me and that I chat with them on Discord, but I mean, I'm just gonna be blunt. I wouldn't call any of them friends, I wouldn't say they're nothing either. Like I'd still call them like an acquaintance, like an associate, that terminology, but it's definitely not like friendship, And I think with that mentality, when you have that mentality in you, it allows you to understand that at the end of the day, the internet is just the internet. And a lot of the times, unless there's someone that is out there like trying to fuck with your real life, like your actual life, you need to understand that. And I think, the more people that do understand that, the less we will see a lot of these communities devolve into, some of the most degenerate nonsense imaginable, to be brutally honest with you, right? Yeah, I mean, because some of these guys legitimately, when they go on the internet, they they that is their life. That is really like their life at the end of the day, where they have nothing better to do, and they genuinely think that their purpose on, that their purpose when it comes to like their free time, whether they get back from their job or college or whatever, is to just go online and like establish their foothold within these communities. And it's a destructive mentality to have, to be brutally honest with you. Sorry, my throat is killing me. If there's any like if there's like if there's any like parents watching this video, not that I'd imagine there are parents watching my shit in the first place, but if there's any like parents or anything like that, my advice really is to just be careful with how your kids use the internet. You're gonna have to really start monitoring a lot of this shit. And to those, and just my general advice in my advice generally speaking is just focus on your real life. Don't engage with any of these individuals that are on the internet. There's no reason for you to engage with any of these with any individual on the internet in a detailed manner. And I still chat with people on Discord, occasionally. But, it's not a friendship. At the end of the day, it's just some dude I chat with, online about certain shit that, just does not matter in the grand scheme of things. Which leads me to my last point before I conclude this video. And I'm going to try to say this as nicely as I can. If you want to chat with me on Discord, I'm definitely open to doing that. If you want to, you can leave a comment on this video requesting, but only if you're over age. If you're not over the age of 18, I'm not going to message you on Discord. Mainly because I've come to the opinion that I genuinely think it's kind of unethical to be a grown man chatting with like somebody who's under the age of 18 with a minor on the internet. Even if the conversation is 100% clean, I just don't think that's appropriate. The way I see it is, if you were a parent, would you really be comfortable with like your son chatting with some random adult online? Yeah, I don't think so, right? But if you're over the age of 18 and you want to chat with me on Discord, you can leave a comment in this video. But the only thing I'll say to end this video off is just to say that, like, understand I'm not your therapist, and I say this with like the nicest fucking way possible. Okay? And I really, really don't want people to get upset when I say this, okay? Because I don't mean this with any ill will. But I'm not your therapist and I'm not your friend, okay? I'm just a guy that you occasionally chat with on Discord, and that's it. If you want to call me an acquaintance, that's fine, but it's not friendship. Unless we actually go out and meet outside and do some shit like in real life, which I'm never gonna do with any people I chat with on Discord, because why the fuck would I do that? But unless we did that, it's not a friendship, okay? And that's something that you guys need to have, like, that same mentality. I'm being serious, okay? If you're active on Discord, that is a mentality that you need to have, okay? But yeah, I've kind of been rambling a lot, and I apologize for that. But yeah, just be careful out there, man. That's all I'm gonna say. Just be careful and understand that that a lot of these communities that are online that you may be interested in, they just do not last. And you kind of see this not just with the commentary community, but you even see this with a lot of other communities where there's a lot of drama that comes out of them. And yeah, that's all I really have to say regarding that issue. Yeah, that's all I have to say. You guys have a good rest of your day, and I hope everything goes well.